In this video, Skoda's smallest SUV hatchback crossover thingy yet, fresh from a midlife facelift. The Kamiq is dinkier and cheaper than the Kamiq and Kodiaq and completes Skoda's triplet of SUVs. At least those still sourcing their propulsion from internal combustion. Anyhow, the Kamiq essentially slots into the Nissan Juke class and is Skoda's equivalent to VW Group cousins like the Seat Arona and Volkswagen T-Cross. It's also the Czech firm's second biggest seller. The Kamiq follows the usual Skoda playbook of prioritizing roominess and pragmatic design flourishes above a car that generates outright desire. Sure, a 20-odd grand SUV will never be the epicenter of overwhelming lust. But where a Juke brings bold styling, a Ford Puma some handling nous, and a Lexus LBX a whiff of business class, the Kamiq shtick is just being a dawdle to live with. It is, essentially, a small Kamiq, which in turn is a small Kodiaq. Where Skoda first entered the crossover marketplace with the adorable Yeti, mixing offbeat design with people carrier-like practicality, its offerings are now much more conventional. The Kamiq might be the least edgy and risky of the current Skoda range, in fact, unless you get slightly discombobulated by the two-spoke steering wheel fitted to some models. An ice scraper under the fuel filler cap, a clip for clamping parking tickets to the windscreen, and a hidden slot to store wet umbrellas in the door. Skoda has made minor headlines with its thoroughly practical Easter eggs over the years. Its greatest hits are all present here, as well as some debutantes, including a ventilated wireless charging pad to stop your phone cooking as the battery tops up, and a socket to latch phones and tablets to the front seats for rear passengers. Even on the sports chairs of Monte Carlo models, those continue to top what's a reasonably simple range. Gone is the old entry-level S trim, with the range now kicking off at £24,000, or a mite over £200 a month. For a Kamiq SE, resplendent with 17 inches alloys, digital instruments, an 8-inch touchscreen and full LED lights, roughly £2,000 more buys an SEL with 18 inches wheels, smarter interior trim and larger screens. The Monte Carlo kicks off at £29,000, or circa £260 monthly, and brings much gloss black trim, new diamond cut 18 inches rims, sportier seats and techie treats like matrix LED lights and a reversing camera. Not a huge amount. The wonderful world of LED lights appears to make facelifting a car even easier, with a rejig of the illumination pattern just as successful as whole new light clusters used to prove. The daytime running lights here are slimmer, apparently, for a more assertive look. While a few grille and bumper tweaks are designed to make the Kamiq look more like a chunky SUV than before, it still resides closer to the slightly high-riding hatchback end of the spectrum, but we've no qualms. It's a pleasant enough thing, and Lord knows you've a wealth of alternative weenie crossovers to choose instead if the styling here doesn't grab you. Engine-wise, the Kamiq is simple. There are no longer any diesels and as yet, no hybrid. Petrol power is your only option, and it's purely front-driven with no frivolous 4x4 on the options list. A 1.0-liter 3-cylinder turbo offers 94 or 114 brake horsepower tunes, though the former only comes latched to a 5-speed manual, whereas its pokier sibling offers either a 6-speed manual or 7-speed DSG auto. As does the range-topping 1.5-liter 4-cylinder, with its relatively punchy 148 brake horsepower. That's certainly enough in a 1.2-ton car, and strong enough for an 8.3-second 0 to 62 miles per hour time. Almost a second quicker than the current Suzuki Swift Sport. There are two verdicts possible here. The first is where we get upset that the Kamiq looks and feels so conventional, not least because Skoda surely could have carved out a Juke-style cult product by building on the legacy of the Yeti. The second sees us grudgingly accept the Kamiq knows its audience. The Skoda Kamiq faithfully adheres to the brand's simply clever message by offering all the things buyers need, but without much of a fanfare. So, while compact SUVs such as the VW T-Cross, Citroën C3 Aircross and Renault Captur are all about funky styling, groovy lights, and just being a bit loud, the Skoda Kamiq has turned up in a neat suit and is getting on with making them look all a bit unnecessary. The two-piece headlights, for example, look just like those on the bigger Kodiaq SUV. While the posh Skoda lettering on the boot lid is a clear nod to the Scala hatchback. It's all very slick and helps make the Kamiq one of the classiest and understated small SUVs around. Things don't look quite so cool inside. But you do get a decent number of posh-feeling plastics and some metal effect trims on the door handles and air vents. You can even jazz up the Skoda Kamiq's cabin with some faux suede trim on the doors and seats in a variety of colors. The Skoda Kamiq's 9.2-inch infotainment system is another highlight. It's standard from Southeast drive trim upwards, looks slick, is pretty easy to use and can be had with digital instruments instead of analog dials, just like an Audi, BMW, or Mercedes. It does mean paying extra going for models from the mid-level upwards though. Thankfully, all these fancy features don't encroach on passenger space, so there's still plenty of room for you to get comfy. The back seats are very generous for a small SUV, too, even without the sliding rear seats like those you get in a VW T-Cross and Citroën C3 Aircross. That said, the Skoda Kamiq can't muster up quite as much boot space as these cars, but at least its load bay still comes with plenty of cool features, including a removable torch and a neat hidden net under the parcel shelf. The Skoda Kamiq's engines aren't quite so clever, but they're still smooth, fairly punchy and pretty economical, if not particularly exciting. They have been lightly updated as part of a 2024 update, though. The same goes for the way the Skoda Kamiq drives. It's pretty comfortable around town and easy to maneuver, but you won't find yourself searching out twisty country roads for a quick Sunday afternoon blast. It feels much more at home cruising along motorways and A-roads than most small SUVs, however, but you'll still hear a bit of wind noise coming from its bluff front end. That said, at least the Skoda Kamiq comes with a decent number of standard safety systems, including automatic emergency braking and lane keeping assist. Sure, you do have to pay a bit extra for adaptive cruise control, but even with a few options added, the Skoda Kamiq is still an affordable small SUV that strikes an excellent balance between comfort, practicality, and style. The Skoda Kamiq is a hard car to pin down. It could fall into several different classes, and yet also none, not quite a hatchback, not quite an SUV, not quite a crossover. We'll just call it a baby SUV for now, but what the Kamiq absolutely has been is a smash hit for the marque. It's now the overall second best-selling model in the range, and the best-selling in a number of Western European countries.